Let's work on the functionality of our movies filter component. What we're going to do is that we're going to have an array of movies in memory, and we're going to try to filter the elements of that array using this form, although in this video we're only going to focus on filtering using the title of the movie, because anyway this implementation of filtering is going to occur in the Web API in the future. And we're also going to implement this clear button that we have here. So let's go to Visual Studio and let's get to work. We are here in the class of the component, and the first thing that we're going to do is to have a movies array. So let's create that array here. It is going to have a few properties like title, let's say Spider-Man. It will also have a poster, let me say poster here. And what I'm going to do is that I will copy this twice, just so that we have 3 movies, let's say Moana here and Inception here. And now I will look for the posters of these movies. I already have 2 here in the home component. Let me go to the class of the home component. Remember that in the past we worked with this, so let me copy this and I will paste it here. And let me do the same for Moana. Let's come here. And I will copy this, copy, and let's go back here and paste in the Moana movie. And finally for Inception, we're going to go to IMDb and let's say here Inception. Let's click on here, right click here, copy image address. Let's come back here and let's paste this. Now let's go to the template of my component and let's come here and I will use our movies list component, movies list component, and let me say here movies, and I will pass the movies array. Now let's save everything and let's come back here, and as you can see we have the 3 movies, but there is no space between the button and the movie, so let me put a class here, clear container, and I will use that class here in the CSS. And let me say dot clear container, and I will say margin bottom 1 rem. Let's save and come back here. And as you can see, now we have some space in between the movies and the bottom. Now, as we said, what we're going to do is that we're going to work with the filtering functionality of the title. Now, if you think about it, we don't have a search button here. So if I write, for example, a spider here, I don't have a button to click to say search for a spider movies. So how are we going to invoke a function when we edit this form? For that, we're going to take advantage of the fact that we're using a reactive form. So I will say that what I will do is that I will react to any change that our form receives. Let's do that. Let's come back here and let's go to the class of the component. And in here, after I initialize my form group, I will do the following. I will say this form value changes. And here we have another observable. This is the second time that we encounter an observable. And I promise that I will talk about observables when we talk about services. But for now, just know that when we say subscribe, we're going to react to any change that our form receives. And in here, I can say values. And we're going to see what those values are. I will say here console log values. And you are going to see that those values are going to be the values of the form. Let me press F12 here. And let me write something here like S. And as you can see, we have title S, genre ID 0, upcoming releases false, and in theaters false. What are those values? Those values are the values of the form. So if we come back here and I finish writing a spider, you can see that for any change that I do to the form, this function that we have here is executing. And it is the same for genre. For example, if I say action, you can see that now genre ID is 2 and title is still a spider because we have a spider here. And if I say upcoming releases, now upcoming releases is true, and the same for in theaters, which means that every time we make a change to our form, we can execute some functionality, and that is when we are going to execute the filtering functionality. So let's do that. Let's come back here And instead of doing this, I will execute another function that we will have here, which we will call filter movies, and it's going to receive some values, and we're going to say any. And in here, I will do the following. I will say if values title, I will say these movies equal to, we're going to say these movies filter movie, and we're going to filter by the title. So we're going to say movie.title.index of, and we're going to filter by using the values title value that we receive, and we're going to say is different than -1. Though there is something that we need to do because we're modifying movies here and we shouldn't have that. So I will create a original movies property here that will be equal to these movies. So every time I execute this functionality, I will reset the movies. So I will say these movies equal to these original movies, and after that I will say these filter movies, and I will pass the values. This is just a trick to reset the movies. And of course in the future we're not going to have to do this because we're going to work with a real database, but for now we have to do this. So now let's save and let's come back here. Let me minimize this and I will write something like a spider, and as you can see we only have a Spider-Man here. If I delete it, you can see that we have everything here. I can write Moana. If I write just the M, you can see that we have a Spider-Man and Moana and not Inception because there is no M in Inception. And of course, if I write Inception, then we get only Inception. Now, let's implement this functionality. This is really easy. This is a one-liner. We are going to clear the form. So let's come here and I will say this form reset. And that's it. Let's come back here. Let's say a spider. And if I click on clear, you can see that this gets clear. Let's do the same for action and upcoming releases and in theaters, and let's say Moana. You can see that the whole form is filled. So let me click on clear and the whole form is cleared.